Hey, this is Viktor Devonne, and I am so excited to announce our second digital edition of Deconstructing We Burlesque. It's a special Halloween live edition on Zoom, where you will be able to see Fem Appeal, Ween, and BonTemps, who are three of the ookiest, spookiest, most delightful characters in all of burlesque Halloween land glory. I can't wait for you to see it. Please go to weburlesque.com and check out the live airing featuring everyone live, so you can actually Q&A with us. You can see what is in the moment and what might end up on the cutting room floor, for those who will also be able to watch it later in the week on Vimeo. Thank you so much. $10, BonTemps, Fem Appeal, Ween, and Viktor Devonne. See you there. This is We Burlesque, the podcast. I'm your host, Viktor Devonne, and it is September 13th, 2020, when I am recording. I like to do these timestamps because it gives the impression that time is maybe wibbly-wobbly in all sense of things, but because we may talk about something that makes absolutely no sense a month later due to, the state of the world, this is where we're coming from, just so you know. I'm in Southern California, and I am speaking to a colleague in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, that I have known only intermittently, so this is a good opportunity to get to know more about you. I have Margot Starlux on the line. Hello.
Hi.
I'm delighted to talk to you because, again, it's actually been quite a while since we've been passing ships. But I know that we met somewhere along the lines in my appearances in Philadelphia. It may have, in fact, been at the Philadelphia Burlesque Festival.
Yeah, I think you might be right about that.
Were you dressed all Amish and doing a little butter churn moment?
Yes, that was
you.
Yes, that was me. That was absolutely me. That's my homage to Lancaster, PA, my hometown.
So how long have you been in the scene?
So I have been in the burlesque scene for about 7 years. I moved to Philadelphia to pursue modern dance in college, and then I dropped out after 2 years because I was like, no, thank you. That's an expensive piece of paper that says that I can dance. So I got a job as a go-go dancer at a 60s themed go-go bar, and all the other performers were mostly burlesque dancers, and then that was it. That was it for me.
And what, did they recommend the field to you, or did you just learn about what their stories were and say, that's the life for me?
Pretty much. I mean, I had seen burlesque shows in the past. The first one I saw was actually in my hometown of Lancaster. There was a touring show that came through, and I was hooked, but I didn't know anyone personally until I started go-go dancing, and some of the dancers were members of the Peekaboo Revue in Philly, and so they were just like, you should do it. Go for it. So here I am, 7 years later.
I mean, you had, as a dancer, you had a pretty good sense of your body, and that's sometimes something that burlesque performers, because we're bundles of nerves at a time, and a lot of us come from either anxiety or self, identification of not sure what to do with ourselves, and burlesque sort of helps us through it. Do you feel as a dancer that made you just sort of bypass a lot of that, or do you still experience some of that learning curve?
I mean, the only thing that really gets me, sometimes I still to this day, after performing my entire life, like since age 6 as a dancer, there are still moments where I'm standing backstage, and if I am in a backstage, if I'm lucky enough to be somewhere with an actual backstage, and but I'm ready to go on, and I get very nervous. But then as soon as I step out and my music starts, then like it pretty much all disappears. All nerves disappear. And I think that has a lot to do with my training and trusting in movement, and being well rehearsed. I think that having a background in dance actually helps just understand that you need to rehearse your numbers. But at the same time, I feel that training also allows me to, if I were to fuck up something up on stage, you know, mess something up, that I can rely on my training and usually improv my way out of something.
Right. Because it looks very, I mean, my experience with modern dance is very limited. I know who Martha Graham is. I know Alvin Ailey, and most of it I learned through Madonna. But the movement is very choreographed, is it not? Even though it looks somewhat improvised?
Yeah, for sure. And there are definitely different styles of modern dance. It's a pretty broad umbrella. But yeah, even choreographers like Merce Cunningham, who was a very prominent modern choreographer, he would choreograph a piece, and then the day of the show, he would change the music and change all the dancers' facings and all the elements so that it looked improv, but they had already rehearsed it. He just made them really use their brains and change everything. So there's a lot of fun choreographic techniques like that in modern dance. But I trained in ballet and jazz as well since the age of 6. So that's a lot. There's a lot going on.
Yeah. It is that is sort of a lot of times young women and AFAB folk, they a lot of times start in ballet. Is that a core reason for that? Do you know? A reason to get your feet in shape, or is that just culturally where we do?
I think it's just the cultural thing, you know. I think we were like, oh yeah, little girls and
femininity, yeah,
just like, oh, that's what you're gonna do. You're gonna be a ballerina, and then the boys and everybody else, like, oh, then you get to play sports. It is, I think, a very cultural, gendered thing.
Yeah. So in terms of your being able to fuck up and then, you know, bounce back, does that lend itself in your burlesque, or do you find it to be different mindset?
I actually do improv fairly often for certain types of gigs. So I will like develop my skeleton per se of choreography, where I have my beginning and I have my end, and then things are going to happen in the middle of it. And that often I use that technique with it's usually gigs with live music. I do a lot of classic gigs with jazz musicians, so it works very well to improv to that, and it's just fun and challenging. And yeah, but then when I do often mess up my own choreography when I do have something fully choreographed, and once in a while I kind of stumble through it, but it's successful most of the time.
What is the generally the face? Are you more like smoldering temptress or bright and bubbly, or what do you go for?
Oh, absolutely. I ham it up. There have been numbers where I'm like, this is going to be the sexiest slow burn that has ever been done. And then it just ends up, I have to make a goofy face because something goes wrong and I can't help it. And I've had people over the years ask me like, man, you have just the best facial expressions on stage. Like, I'm like, it just happens. It's just, that's what my face does. And I don't really think about it.
So when I met you, you were using a different name. Can we talk a little bit about the origins and the legend that is Pizza Wolf?
Yes, absolutely. It's so exciting. I've had many stage names. I started out as the go-go dancer as Miss Scarlet Fever, and we'd like to forget about that name. We put that name in the grave. That is gone. And then I became Margot Starlux actually first. And then one of my best friends, Liberty Rose, who was a performer in the city of Philadelphia for many years. One
of the people behind Philadelphia Burlesque Festival.
Exactly. Yes, the producer of the Philadelphia Burlesque Festival and many incredible nerdlesque shows. We were doing a show together, and I wasn't doing a solo at all. They only needed me as an extra body for a group number. And so we thought it was funny if they just put my name on the poster as Pizza Wolf, because that had been a running joke, because I have a wolf tattooed on my leg, and I love pizza. And after every rehearsal, I was like, y'all, let's get pizza. So it turned into this joke that she billed me on this poster as Pizza Wolf. And so at the end of the show, during a curtain call, they announced me as Pizza Wolf, and everyone started howling and cheering for Pizza Wolf. I didn't even do anything really in this show. It was just a funny joke. And so then from then on, almost every time I performed, other performers or people that were at that show would chant Pizza Wolf instead of Margot Starlux, which I thought was hilarious. So I finally just fully changed my name to Pizza Wolf because I also thought it was hilarious to do classic gigs like in other cities and be billed as Pizza Wolf, and people had no idea what was about to happen. So that lasted a few years, and then I don't know, I started doing less and less Nerdlesque, which I thought really fit with the name Pizza Wolf. And I sort of just decided to go back to Margot. I thought it was a better fit for the style that I've been doing, which is a lot more
very
fun.
dignified and elegant. And if you're also able to throw in those goofy faces, I think that works perfectly. It's still unassuming. It's just turning it around.
Yeah, thank you.
Where does the name Margot come from?
So I chose Margot after an acquaintance of mine who I knew through the swing dancing community, which I'm also involved in. I hadn't seen her for a few months. She came to a dance and said that she had been studying abroad in Paris, and she brought back with her hot French girlfriend named Margot. And we were all like, ooh, hi, Margot. And then when I was developing a new stage name after Miss Scarlet Fever had to die, I just remembered my friend's hot French girlfriend named Margot and stole her name.
Why did Scarlet Fever have to die? Why did she finally succumb to her disease?
It was just inevitable. I just didn't, I thought the name was funny and goofy when I first started out. But I don't know. Once in a while, people would be like, ooh, you're making a joke out of a disease. And I was like, well, yes, you're correct. You are correct. But also mainly there are so many Scarlets in the burlesque world.
That is,
so I was like,
yeah, you might as well think of Kitty or something. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So I figured I would choose a name that was slightly less common.
And Starlux, is there a reason behind that?
Yeah, the Starlux is a motel in Wildwood, New Jersey.
Oh, okay.
I've always been obsessed with Wildwood, New Jersey. If you've never been, it's very retro. There are many motels built in the 50s and 60s that are still standing. They're slowly demolishing all of them, which is very sad because apparently no one wants to stay.
We don't cherish our buildings.
Exactly. No, people want to stay in a cookie cutter condo. But anyway, so I've always loved all the motels in Wildwood. I went there as a kid, and so the Starlux is one of the many motels with its beautiful neon sign. And yeah,
it is sort of, that does sort of sound like quintessential. That kind of motel that you would see with the neon light and
Exactly.
Yeah, I haven't been to Wildwood in quite a while. I grew up in New Jersey, so South Jersey was a late addition for me, but it did happen because my father ended up moving to Cape May County.
Oh, nice! So right there.
Yeah, that was when I was in high school, or right before I was in high school, and then I went to Ocean. My first job was in Ocean City.
Nice.
Yeah.
Classic.
Yeah, it was at a condo place where mostly older people and then families would just get like seasonal passes, like 2-week seasonal or a month seasonal, and I was security.
Oh, nice.
I was a very imposing 17-year-old, evidently.
Yes, yeah, you're very imposing.
I had a badge. I mean, that was something. It was on a vest. Yeah.
That's great.
So what then brings you into the mindset of knowing in terms of modern dance? Were you traditionally working with other people and then doing solos? Is that why you are easily able to in burlesque share a spotlight, so to speak?
I mean, mostly like growing up in the dance world and then in college with modern dance, it is mostly group choreography, but I did always enjoy when I got the opportunity to do a solo and branch out and improv and all those things. So I think that that paired with go-go dancing, which if I could go-go dance for the rest of my life and that's it, like I would love that. I just love the freestyle movement. So I think all of that lends itself very well to burlesque. Because sometimes as a member of the Peekaboo Revue, we do a lot of big group numbers, and sometimes I'll mess up in the group number. And obviously, it is much more noticeable when you're all doing the same movement. And so sometimes I'm like, oh, yeah, I really like doing solo work.
Those group acts, are they more character or scene-like, or are they more like chorus line?
They're more like chorus line for the most part. Yeah, very chorus line like.
Do you think of yourself as a choreographer, or do you let other people take the reins?
It's funny. I actually don't love choreographing. It is not my strong suit. I'm not terrible at it, but I do enjoy the group numbers when someone else is in control. And it's also a fun challenge to learn someone else's choreography and someone else's movement patterns that are not, not what I would normally do. So that's always a fun challenge.
In terms of how long does it take for you to sort of stockpile that choreography to know it? Are you a quick learn? Are you a quick study?
I am not. That has been my downfall my entire life. Like, I am not terrible at auditions, but I am not great at auditions. I just am not a super quick learner. There's always someone who's way faster and has the choreography in like 2.5 seconds, and I'm over here still trying to get the first two moves. So yeah, that's something I've always struggled with, unfortunately. But I get it eventually.
Well, in terms of go-go dancing, that would be predominantly a solo venture, right? Even if there's multiple folks in the venue, you have your own personal space, right?
Exactly. That's why I love it. My own personal space, just do whatever I want.
And do you get to pick the music, or do you get to sort of improvise to what just happens to come out?
It definitely just depends on the gig. I've worked, like the first go-go job I had at the Trestle Inn in Philadelphia, they had DJs, so I didn't get to pick the music. But then there are some gigs where I'm hired as a go-go dancer and you get to submit your own playlist. So it all depends on what type of event it is. But it is really fun and sometimes not fun when you don't get to pick the music and someone else is DJing and a song comes on. You're like, okay, all right, friend. How do you expect anyone to dance to this? But you keep going because, got to be professional.
In terms of what a go-go dancer is, I think a lot of people think of that as sort of an old-fashioned concept in places where, I guess, and also, I mean, it's a big part of queer culture, where you get like, a twink or a muscly boy in like a jockstrap or underwear. In terms of a woman doing it, what is the, and that's usually like in a club setting for a lot of queer spaces. What is the vibe of a go-go place that you would work at?
I mean, I actually prefer like retro go-go dancing to 50s and 60s, sometimes 70s music. I just love that cheesy movement. That's my favorite.
A full Pulp Fiction experience.
Exactly. Yes, that. Exactly. Doing the jerk, doing the swim, all of those things. White go-go boots. I love all of that. Bouffant shoes. Yes, all the fringe. Cover me in fringe and I will die happy. But yeah, go-go has evolved. Like you said, like there's a lot of queer spaces that will have go-go dancers, but then there are also like a lot of EDM events, which I'm not in that scene at all. I don't listen to any EDM, but I know that a lot of their events will have go-go dancers or, hoopers and all of those things.
Sort of ambiance for the room.
Exactly, which is still true to what go-go started as was basically clubs were shifting from live music to recorded music. And so then they would hire these dancers to either just create ambiance, get people dancing. Also, sometimes they would teach people whatever the popular dances were, because, you know, the 50s and 60s loved their goofy dances. Like, we think of the twist as obviously the most popular one, but there were so many others that we just don't even know about anymore. Because
I mean, you watch Hairspray and they mention at least a couple of them.
Exactly.
Because the single, the hit song, was based around the dance. Like the Hucklebuck no, I'm blanking. But or the mashed potato.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. I know, I'm blanking out on all of them as well. The turkey trot was one.
I mean, if you look up like a list of like 50, 60 songs, I bet they're all there, because they're all usually the name of the song.
Hey, this is Victor, and I want to give a special shout out to the Patreon supporters: Joyce, Andrea, Alex, Bo Bridges, Amy, Dollbody, Princess Chris, Ruthless Retribution, Drew, Kelly Blue, Stormageddon, and Rob. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much. If you would like to be one of those fabulous people that are supporting the pod and all my adventures, please go to patreon.com/weburlesque. Thank you.
Do you like movies?
Any movies. Old movies, new movies.
Bad movies.
Sad movies.
I'm Matt, a.k.a. Stormageddon.
And I'm Rachel Corky Shank.
And together we host Screen Snark, a movie podcast for movie lovers by movie lovers.
It's a podcast dedicated to the movies that are in our eyes, on our minds, and in our hearts.
Featuring guests of a wide selection of entertainment backgrounds, performers, writers, creatives.
So please join us for the casual cinema conversation every other Monday wherever you get your podcasts.
And follow us on Twitter at screen_snark, and we'll see you at the movies. All right, we're supposed to do that bit together.
That's cool.
PonyPod, a traveling performers podcast. If you like hearing from traveling performers, please subscribe and leave 5 stars wherever you listen to podcasts. I'm your host, Miss Mary Jane Green, the Trouser Tent Teaser. You can find me on the main social media platforms or by joining my mailing list at MissMaryJaneGreen.com. In the immortal words of Jack Kerouac, nothing behind me, everything ahead of me, as is ever so, on the road.
Yeah, exactly.
So when you are doing the full Margot Starlux as a burlesque performer experience, what music do you gravitate to?
Mostly I will gravitate towards a lot of jazz. As a swing dancer, I love jazz. And there's a musician in Philly, Drew Nugent. Shout out to Drew Nugent and the Midnight Society, who does a lot of these live jazz events. He plays a lot of early jazz, a lot of Dixieland. So I do gravitate towards that. And other than that, it all depends on what dumb idea I came up with. I mean, I have my Amish Paradise number to Weird Al. I have a space pizza number.
I've seen that one too, yeah.
This is surf rock. So it's all, yeah, I try and pick music, that fits best with whatever stupid concept I came up with.
Where did that come from? Did you grow up listening to that music, or did that come later?
As far as the jazz, that came later when I got into swing dancing. Growing up, though, my parents, they had a wall of wooden milk crates full of records. And so they exposed me to anything from Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons to like Jethro Tull and like everything in between. So I grew up listening to a lot of music and went to school not understanding why people were only talking about like the Backstreet Boys and not Elvis. So yeah, so that was fun.
Were you like a retro kid or a retro teen? Did you do the whole rockabilly thing? I could see you as a pink lady.
Yes, I did have my like pin-up-y phase, where I'd wear the little cherry dress, the little rockabilly dresses and all that. I did have that phase. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I just then developed more into, I like 60s styles, more little, sheath dresses and all of that. But yeah, that started probably in high school. I had my best friend, her father was in a rockabilly band and he owned a record label, and his girlfriend would do our hair and our makeup all pinup style, which was very exciting as like a 16-year-old.
Now, you also are a member of the Looking Glass Revue.
Mm-hmm.
That is a troupe that I was able to work with back in the day of it being in Lehigh Valley. Are they still, or have they fully relocated to Philadelphia?
They're still in the Lehigh Valley mostly, so I'll travel and do gigs in Allentown and Bethlehem, which is exciting because it's nice to perform for audiences that don't have as much burlesque, all that they're not oversaturated. So yeah, they're still out there in good central PA.
Yeah, I met them through Mika Romantic, who is one of the stars of that show. And I know that there's been some change in the ranks over the years. Do you feel that you fit like a specific archetype in that line of fabulous ladies?
I mean, yeah, Mega Romantic definitely is like the epitome of sultry classic burlesque. He is fantastic to watch. I think I tend to bring in a little bit more humor on my end, a little bit more goofiness, even though I'm doing mostly classic. I feel like I bring in a little bit more humor into the troupe.
Well, being still very, very glamorous.
Yes.
Because I guess that was one of the things that was so fascinating, the dedication to the aesthetic of the Looking Glass, because Mika specifically is very put together. Like everything is just perfectly tailored and perfectly stylized, but she's also can be a total goofball. And I think that sometimes we forget in terms of classic burlesque that like Betty Page frequently like had a grin on. Like our legends in burlesque, they were, when they were doing the tassels, they had their mouths wide open and were loving it. Demure came later. That was for photography.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, I think some people that they definitely do forget like the fun in burlesque and the joy in it, and that you can be on stage, you can have fun, you know, not that there's anything wrong obviously with the demure and the sultry and all of that it all has its place for sure, but I tend to just, I love it so much and I'm having so much fun on stage that it comes through.
What is your creation process like? Do you start with a song? Do you start with a costume? Do you start with a wig? What do you go with?
I usually start with a song. Once in a while, I'll have some fabric, you know, in my piles and piles of fabric and costuming supplies that I'll be inspired by. But usually I'll hear a song and just have to choreograph something to it. Something has to be made.
How long until you know you're done? Because as someone who, you said you weren't necessarily strong in choreography and you want to improvise, how do you know, okay, this is ready to be played with?
Something that I will do is if I'm creating a new number and I have that skeleton choreography of the beginning and then the end, still working on the middle of it, I will do that number at like a low stakes gig, which sounds, you know, not like just a gig that, you know, maybe
when you feel a little more comfortable at doing. Yeah.
Exactly. So a lot of times, because I do have some regular improv gigs, I'll do that number at a more low stakes gig, feel it out. And that's always so helpful because then I can go back and fix whatever, you know, I want to tweak.
I'm not great at choreography. I just don't. What I will do is I will spend the first 2 or 3 times performing it to tell me what I'm going to do the 5th, 6th, and 7th time I do it.
Yep.
Yeah,
that's the
kind
thing.
of how it works. I mean, I guess it's more, it's hitting, I don't know, I think I have a pretty good sense of expectation and foresight, knowing when a beat's gonna hit. I don't run out of time. I used to be so in my head where the song would end and I didn't accomplish everything I needed. So I'd be like, oh, pants, done. But I learned to listen to myself and pay attention to, you know, what the act is. Do you stay fairly internal or are you more playing with the crowd?
It depends on if it's a brand new number and I'm really in my head and I'm really thinking about it, you know, that happens. But I love playing to the audience so much. And, you know, once in a while it will happen where I'm playing with the audience too much. And then, yeah, you're like, oh, whoop, got to take my bra off now because I wasn't paying attention to the music. But yeah, over the years, I have really learned to live in the moment, live in that music, live in the movement. And then, you know, the audience is there for a reason. And that's what I love about burlesque is that you get to break down that fourth wall. You get to make eye contact. I love just staring at somebody and someone who like is like, oh God, the performer's looking at me. Like, it's great. I love those fun moments. And then like, you know, making someone smile who looked terrified, who probably never went to a burlesque show before. I really enjoy those moments a lot.
So how does that translate into this world of COVID and digital shows and not getting to the stages? How you been doing?
It's been hard. I spent a good portion of the lockdown, the beginning of the lockdown, being a depressed lump on my couch, which I feel like a lot of us did because, you know, all gigs dried up overnight. It was just email after email after email of every single gig being canceled. So that was hard. But to sort of get out of that, I started doing live stream go-go sets on Instagram and Facebook, which was fun. My lovely boyfriend who works in film and has beautiful lighting helped me out. So I felt very lucky. I had his support. He helped me film these things. So that was helpful. Until then, Instagram and Facebook started to, you know, they would flag the posts for music copyright issues and all of that good stuff. And then in May was when all of the Black Lives Matter protests exploded, and I had taken 1 week off before that, and then the protests in Philadelphia and all across the country started, and I just did not feel okay taking up space on the internet, you know? And so I ceased doing those go-go sets, which I'm totally fine with. It was fun for the few weeks that I did it, but it's not the same. You're performing to a camera. You're just staring at your phone, hoping that somebody somewhere maybe is enjoying it. And just that lack of audience interaction is just, I think that's what I miss the most, is like the energy in the room, on the stage, that's been hard.
Yeah, I think, and I've been talking to a number of folk, particularly this season of the podcast, because I delayed doing episodes for a bit, because I take some time off between every 30 episodes or so. I take some time off, and just because it's a lot to go through. And I realized that when the pandemic was happening, I needed to start again for a couple of reasons. One, it helped my getting through it, talking to people about what we love, what we do, and also acknowledging that we're all going, through the same shit, even state to state, and especially state to state, because the uncertainty, even county to county, is insane. And also sort of I don't want to say documenting, because that sounds a little calculated, but keeping track of how people are doing. Everyone has been hit with such a wave of just sort of lost, really. And it's startling, and it's really humbling to recognize that we all have that in common, because I think a lot of us, either, even if we knew that it was going to happen, we didn't prepare for the loneliness that it can really incorporate, because everything before a show, during a show, and after a show is so, necessary to our well-being. So have you been able to keep up with your troupe mates and your colleagues through all of this?
Yeah, luckily the Peekaboo Revue in particular, we continued. So we would meet twice a week for rehearsals, Mondays and Wednesdays. We continued to meet on Monday nights through Zoom, just to keep, in contact and talk about future plans. And so that was really helpful, just being able to just see them, through Zoom. Thank God for Zoom during all of this. That we can
that Zoom stock, they all earned that.
Yup. But so thankfully technology, it's been helpful to keep up with everyone, whether it's just an Instagram message or seeing someone's posts, it's very helpful for sure.
What have you been doing to occupy your time otherwise?
I mostly ride my bike. Okay. So I'm an avid cyclist. For a year, I was on a road racing team, like all women's development team.
You have a lot of layers, Margot.
I know. So I luckily was able to get out on my bike. Obviously all of this started in the spring, so it was actually perfect timing that it was nice out, that I could just go out on my bike for literally hours and go on a trail where there weren't really any people. And Philadelphia, actually, along the Schuylkill River, there on one side there's a bike and walking path that was like flooded with people, which was not great during the pandemic. But the other side of the river, they actually closed down the road that runs along that side, the west side of the river, so that you could have this entire 4-lane road to bike and walk. And so that's been a lifesaver, just taking that. It's not far from my house and just being out in nature on my bike.
Do you see people, or is it mostly a solitary venture?
I'll see other people. I go out by myself, because it's just a nice time to think or not think, whichever the day calls for. So, yeah.
Have you been occupying any time with media? I think a lot of people have explored and realized how necessary things like Hulu and Netflix and everything have been during all of this.
Yes, I absolutely watch some Netflix and some Hulu for sure. That's
any recommendations?
Let's see, what have I been watching? I recently watched Pen 15 on Hulu, which I recommend, because if you were growing up sometime around Y2K, you will have fond memories of AIM and all the things it takes place in the year 2000, and it's 2 middle schoolers, and I highly recommend it. I also recommend a show that I was in that's on Hulu. Shameless self-promotion over here.
What was your work on Shameless?
So it's a show called Reprisal that's on Hulu. It came out last December. Yes. And it follows this femme fatale who's seeking revenge on this sort of greaser-esque gang that tried to kill her, and the gang hangs out in a like burlesque go-go club. So I am one of the dancers in the club. So it's a fun show.
Talk a little bit with Danger about that.
Yes.
Because they, I guess their work was making sure that was authentic, and that all of you were. So that's very flattering that you were viewed as the pinnacle of authenticity. In that regard.
Yes.
What was shooting that like?
It was really fun. I had never worked on a production that big. The only other thing I did on that sort of scale was I was an extra in one episode of The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. So that was really fun. But this was like an ongoing thing. I got to do several shoots. They shot it in Wilmington, North Carolina. So I would drive down there, spend like a week on set there. And it was great. The set was incredible. They built the greatest burlesque club that needs to be real, even though the show got canceled and they have dismantled the set, which is so sad.
It can be rebuilt.
Right? As a real club. But it was great. It was really fun seeing just how those productions are made. And obviously it's very different working in film than it is for theater. It's you get to reset, you get to do a bunch of takes. That's great. I love that aspect.
Then you also have to deal with continuity. Where was my hand on my hip?
It's true. It's very true. That's another added layer. And lots of get ready and wait that comes along with that.
Yeah, I've only done a couple of music video shoots, which are a far smaller scale, but a lot of, okay, we're going to reset. Okay. We're going to stay here for a little bit waiting.
Yeah, so exactly.
Would you, is that something that you would look into potentially doing again?
Yeah, I am doing that production. I now qualify to join SAG if I wanted to. But I
get all those screeners.
What's that?
You get all those screeners. All those DVDs in the mail.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that I have plans to move. Well, not right now. I had plans to move to New York. That's obviously not happening at the moment, but there would just be more opportunities up there than in Philadelphia for work like that. But I definitely would like to do more now that productions are starting up again.
Yeah, I'm not sure how they're going to handle all of that, because especially with extras and background people, making sure that everyone is safe and protected, and the venues, it's I don't know how they're. It's a world of uncertainty still to come.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And they keep pushing back all of this media. So there's movies that have been scheduled that they're pushing back, and television shows that have been pushed back that are in the can. Like I've been waiting for I think it's season 4 of Fargo for 8.5 months now. But I know some of it is because out of respect for the pandemic, they want to make sure that they're not taking up space, as you talked similarly about, but also money. It's getting it out there at the right time. And they're going to have to eventually make some concessions and start releasing it, because they're going to run out of footage soon.
Yeah. No, definitely.
So what are some of so we have the swing dancing, we have the cycling, we have the burlesquing, we have the go-go, and you also, we can throw you in a modern dance troupe if necessary. What have you not done that still calls to you?
What have I not done? I really would like to learn how to sing. I did the spring musicals in high school, but it was because I could dance. I went to a small Catholic school, and so I would always be in the chorus as a dancer, and they would have the group of us that were just the dancers and who weren't very good at singing, and they just like put us in the corner during like the big numbers that needed singing, and they'd be like, you just go over here, it'll be fine. But I can sort of sing, but I would actually really love to take voice lessons and explore that, because I've always been very jealous of people that can sing.
Do you want to be like a torch singer, or do you want to be a singing stripper?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know if I could multitask. I've seen so many good sing and strip numbers. I don't know. I might leave that to the people that are already good at that.
Would it be in the jazz and that style?
Yeah, probably that. I just love musicals, so that would be really fun to pursue that. But that's so many layers of acting and singing and dancing. So, but I would like to explore musical theater for sure.
I mean, we are at a point, I think, we always have, we dub every once in a while, but mostly we're at a point, I think, when we make film musicals especially, is the a quote unquote appreciation for the natural voice. So, you don't have to necessarily be Maria Callas. You could get away with being, Renee Zellweger. You could do it.
Yeah. Thank you.
She's a great voice, but it's also a character voice.
For sure. Yeah. Thank you.
Do you see yourself potentially doing even like larger scale? Like, I mean, Broadway's a hustle, but do you see yourself even doing bigger productions in that regard, in terms of burlesque and dance?
Yeah, I think so joining the Peekaboo Revue was nice, because they do put on very big productions a few times a year. So as far as Philadelphia, that's like the biggest production you can go see in the burlesque world. And sometimes we have the live band, and I love that. I love being on an actual stage with wings and curtains and all the things. So I definitely would like to, continue to explore bigger productions. I think just because growing up in the dance world, I miss that. I love performing in tiny little hole in the wall bars. Obviously that's great too, but I do love, just the
Are you the one who just like watched Singing in the Rain on loop as a kid, or?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
What were some of your influential icons? Who did inspire you?
I'd say one of my favorite musicals is Cabaret, and I love Liza Minnelli. Who doesn't? Come on, get real.
Really, no one who doesn't like Liza Minnelli is someone I would trust. So
right, exactly. But then, as far as like you mentioned Singing in the Rain, so the scenes with Sid Charisse and like her perfect dancing, just I always would watch the dance scenes in those musicals over and over and over.
Were you the kind of person who would do like the show in the living room for the parents, or were you more I need a stage, not a living room?
No, I definitely would perform. I would never sing in front of people. Like when I was a kid, I was always shy in that regard, but like get me dancing. And I think my favorite was I would always do my own version of flash dance for my mom. Would come down with like her 80s leg warmers on and do the whole thing. And, I think that was one of my shining moments as a child.
I mean, it's formative. It's all formative. Well, I thank you for spending some time with me and the opportunity to get to know you a little better. Before I let you go, I will include in the footnotes all the ways that people can see what you're up to. Obviously, we don't know what the rest of the year, I think we have an idea, but we don't know what the rest of the year or the upcoming months will be, but I wish you only the best and to get you back on those stages safely and securely. Is there anything that you've got coming up that you are looking forward to or have a gleam in your eye?
I I mean, I have a few virtual performances coming up. I'm going to be a part of Philly's Burlesque and Beyond festival that happens every year. Their virtual version, I believe it's September 26th, I think. I think that's the date. The Peekaboo is also doing a Halloween virtual show and then a holiday one in December. So we're working on that. So yeah, so I've got a few things going on.
Excellent. Yeah, cool. Well, then people can find you again in the footnotes, Margot Starlux on all the platforms. As well as the Peekaboo and if Looking Glass gets together as well, they can check that out as well.
Yeah.
Oh, you are a delight, and I appreciate your candor and getting the opportunity to speak. I will say adieu and give you the rest of your evening to yourself and your family. And I'll hopefully see you around on the net, and hopefully back when I make it to the East Coast again.
Yes. Yeah. Thanks for chatting with me. This was lovely. It was nice to catch up with you. And I hope everything's going well in California. I hope you're.
You know, it's day to day. We have a lot of smoke right now because we have wildfires. But we're far enough inland where we are not personally affected by that. But going outside, we can taste it.
Yeah. Well, I hope you stay safe.
Thank you. You as well. Everyone wear a mask, and we'll get back on stages real soon. This has been a We Burlesque podcast. I'm Viktor Devonne, and I have been speaking with Margot Starlux, and I wish you a fond farewell right now.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too. Bye.
Bye. Bananarama? Okay, all right.
A band?
Yeah.
Yes. As a pastor's kid growing up in the 90s, there was a lot of mainstream entertainment that I was sheltered from.
Stephen Root, he does one of the voices.
Okay.
You know him from News Radio.
Do I?
You know him from Office Space.
Do I?
You know...
Most things, really. So, now that I am an independent and out queer 30-something, I'm finally asking my friends to teach me about all the stuff I missed out on. Wait, Raffi did Beatles covers?
Yes, he did.
My mind is blown.
He did Octopus's Garden. And,
Yeah, I remember Octopus's Garden. No. I didn't know that wasn't a Raffi original until just now. The Re-Education of Hazel Tart. Subscribe now.
Kevin Costner. He was so foxy.
I know the name, I don't know the face. I cannot. What is Kevin Costner? Can you just show me a picture of Kevin Costner's face, please?
Think of the guy,
this is hurting
not Cheech Marin, but think of the other guy in Tin Cup.
I've never seen that.
We Burlesque. Burlesque Ghost Stories. Available Wednesdays all throughout September and October 2020. Find it on the